everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. Today we're making this awesome Halloween crocheted table runner. This one is so cool. It's using some of the squares that we used for the 365 Days of Granny Squares to make this fabulous design. And you can make this bigger or smaller or however you want to make it. It was just a simple design that I crocheted a bunch of squares together and made a border around them and had a good time making it. We are just using the squares separately. We're making them separately and then we're sewing them together using the whip stitch. And then like I said though, you can make this as big as you want it to be. I'll go into some of the supplies we need and then I will talk about some frequently asked questions and then we'll get into making this fabulous piece. So the yarn I'm using, you can see here, is Red Heart Super Saver yarn. This is just a 10 ply size 4 worsted weight medium yarn. You can use a double knitting yarn or a worsted weight yarn. I prefer to use Red Heart Super Saver, but you can use any brand of yarn that you prefer to use. Now this yarn is 3 different colors that I'm using today. I'm using orange, that's called Bright Orange by Red Heart. I'm using white, and then I'm using black. You can use any colors you want. I prefer to use 3 colors though in this project to get it the cool design that it has, so make sure you check that out. Also, the links in the description of this video will have a link to the Spinning Spider Granny Square, the Web We Weave Granny Square, and the Solid Granny Square, because those are the 3 squares we are using in this design to make this table runner today. Also, we are going to use an H size crochet hook, which is 5 millimeters. So make sure you have that handy, as well as, oop, there it is, a yarn needle and a scissors are also going to be handy in this project because we'll be cutting our yarn and sewing in our ends, and these tools just come in handy in all 365 Days of Granny Squares and in every single crochet project that you ever work with, scissors and yarn needle just to sew in your ends and cut the ends of your yarn. Also, before we start, there are other links in the description of this video. So there is the link to those 3 squares to make them, because I'm not going to show them in this tutorial because I already have videos for them on my channel. So if you need to follow those links to make these 3 and see the rest of this video to see how many you need to make and all that good stuff. And then also you can see the link to the blog. There will be a write-up of how to make this piece. Obviously there's a border and we sew these together, so there are other steps into making these squares and making this piece. So there's a link to the blog YARNutopia.com where you'll get the whole pattern for the table runner. But like I said, I have video tutorials for these squares already, so you can see those videos and make your squares first and then come back to this tutorial to make this piece. But like I said earlier, that you can make this bigger. You can go on to making, you know, this just a 2, 3, 3, and then you can keep making 3, 3, 3 like rows and making this as long as you want. This piece right here is, let me measure this out for you. Okay, yeah, you can see my little sheep over there. It is 41 inches across from side to side, which is about 105 centimeters. So that's how big or how long this is. And then from top to bottom here, like width-wise, it is about 20 inches wide, which is, in centimeters, about 53 centimeters wide. Okay? So, I guess 21 inches. 21 inches and about 53 centimeters wide. So that's the length and the width measurements of this piece. And then that information will be in the notes section of the blog post for this piece. That link is in the description of this video. In this video, I am going to be using annotations throughout the video, so you can click on the video if you're using a computer to see, to click right to the video tutorial for these squares. But The links are also in the description of this video. I also have a link to my Facebook and Instagram and the links in the description of this video, so make sure you join me there. Join me on Facebook, like my page, share your photos, whatever's on your hook today, whether it's this or something else. Share your photos on the Facebook, join the discussions, and share all your crochet tips and tricks and all that fun stuff. Also, join me on Instagram. If you make this or any of my projects on YARNutopia.com, make sure to hashtag YARNutopia so that I can see your squares, I can see your work, I can see whatever you're crocheting, and I'll go and like your double tap those Instagrams and comment on my favorites. You can also follow me on Snapchat. I am YARNutopia on Snapchat, so you can snap me a little picture of your squares and or your projects and everything. Also, one last thing. I have to say a huge thank you to my dad, Fuad, Azmat, for taking the time to make these videos with us. He is our videographer, editor, and photographer for all of our videos. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button, subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. We're almost to 100,000. That's so exciting. And then also in the corner of your video here, there should be like an I, like a letter I for more information. You can click that, support YARNutopia. A big panel will come down and support us in any way you can. No amount is too small. We would greatly appreciate all your support so that we can keep bringing you these fantastic crochet tutorials. So now we can get started in making this beautiful Halloween table runner. Okay, so before we attach these squares, I'm going to explain to you which squares to make and which video tutorials to watch, and then once you have all your squares made and your ends sewn in, I'll show you how to attach these. So we have to make 2 of this spinning spider granny square. This is number 266 of our 365 days of granny squares, and this one I ended up doing a little bit of a different method to it. On the number 266 granny square, you can see that I turned this spider. So in the video tutorial, you'll see the spider is actually twisted this way, so it's straight across in the square. But in my table runner, I wanted to make it on a diagonal, so it looks more like it's on a diamond shape, just for the look of it. So I'll explain how I did that, and you can make 2 of these. If you need to follow along with the video tutorial or the written pattern for this granny square, I will have all that information in the blog, which is in the description. The link is in the description of this video. Or you can click basically anywhere, like right here on your video, if you're on the computer, you can click this annotation and it will take you to this video tutorial to watch this spinning spider granny square, number 266 of our 365 days of granny squares. So you'll be able to see how to make this one. Just know in the video tutorial I am making it twisted so it is actually straight across here and not on a diagonal. So right now I can explain to you how I did that on a diagonal. So what you'll do is make the spider exactly how it is in the written pattern and in that video tutorial for the spinning spider granny square. And then when you're going on to the round where you're working in those back loops there, you will actually start on a stitch. If you look at the head of our spider here, you'll start on a stitch that's on the side of it, the center of the head. So you're not going to start in the same stitch as I do in that video tutorial. You're going to start, so if you're looking at your spider this way, I know it is a little bit hard to explain. We'll be working with our spider this way, and if you see that video tutorial, it will make a lot more sense. But you're going to start in this stitch over here, and then you're going to chain up 3, put a double crochet in the next stitch, then chain for your corner, and then put double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and that will create the corner right at the middle of your head. Okay, so that's, and then you just go on to making the square the same way. Although when you're making your single crochet round to attach your legs here, to tack down the legs, you can see here that I tack down the legs in these stitches here. So you can pause your video or see your video how I attach them, which stitches I attach them to. You can see in the corner here. So we have in this chain 2 space here, we have a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then that next stitch right here, this double crochet here, is where I attached this single crochet and I put this leg down. Then I did a single crochet in the next this chain 1 space, and then in this double crochet here, and then I tacked this leg down into the stitch right before the corner. Then I made the corner chain 2 space, and then you tack this one down, okay? This is the single crochet round. So in the single crochet round, we have 2 single crochet, chain 2, and 2 single crochet into that corner, and then that next single crochet is tacking this one down. Then we single crochet into this double crochet here and in this chain 1 space, and then we tack this next leg down, and then those are the legs on that side. So you can see on both sides here. I'll show you here. I'll stretch this out so you can kind of see here, and then you can either pause your video or see exactly where I tacked my legs down. Okay, I'll kind of move those over so you can see exactly this stitch is in the stitch after, the stitch right after the corner chain 2 space. Okay, so it's in the stitch before the chain 2 space, then we do our corner here, and then our next stitch. So those are those two. And then you just skip to, it basically is just tacking those down. But you could really tack them down however you want to, or you could just sew them down. Here's the other side, the opposite side of the spider. Okay, so I tacked those legs down, just like that. Okay, so then I made the spider diagonal on that square. I did not want to, show you how to make this because I did a video tutorial on how to make the spinning spider granny square. Just know that for this table runner one, I just twisted it to be a diagonal on the square. So it's very simple. You can do it yourself, or you could just make the spinning spider granny square and have the straight across spider being just that the head would be facing this side up here. But it's really your choice. So that's how I made that. So you can make 2 of those. Then once you have those 2 made, you can go on to making 6 of these ones. This is number 2 granny square of our 365 days of granny squares. It is just a solid granny square design. I did rounds 1 and 2 in one color. So I made 4 of the ones that have orange in the center. Rounds 1 and 2 are orange. I made 2 with the center being white in the first 2 rounds. But then the last 4 rounds are black for all of 6 of these squares. And the very last round, so I did 5 rounds with double crochets. And then the very last round on these squares is actually half double crochet. That just got me to the size I needed. If you have a tighter tension, you can make it a double crochet round just to make it the same size as the rest of our squares. So you need to make 6 of those, but I made 4 of the ones with orange in the center, with rounds 1 and 2 being orange, and then I made 2 with the center rounds 1 and 2 being white. Okay, so I made 6 of those, you can see here. And then we made 2 of the spider web ones. So this is the Web We Weave Granny Square. I have a video tutorial on that. That is number 246 Granny Square of our 365 days of Granny Squares. So you just need to make 2 of these ones. And again, if you need to follow along with a video tutorial, or you can click the center of your video here. There will be an annotation to follow along with the video tutorial to make this one. You need to make 2 of these for this table runner. Also, like I said earlier though, if you can't click on the video annotation, the links to this granny square, the Web We Weave, and the spinning spider granny square, those 2 will be, the links to those ones will be in the description of this video. And also in the table runner blog post on my website, you will see the video tutorials for all of these squares, so that once you have all of these squares made, lay them out just like this. Okay, so you have the 2 spiders on the side, the 2 these ones, the webs in the middle, and then those ones all in the little corner areas here, okay? And then once you have them all made, we're going to attach them using a whip stitch, and I'm going to use black yarn. You can use any color that you want, but I'm going to attach these using a black. So what you'll need is a yarn needle and that black yarn, and then once you have those squares all made, I'll meet you up and we'll start attaching these squares. Alright, once you have your yarn and on your needle and everything, you're ready to sew all of this together. We're going to start from this corner here, from these two. We're going to attach across here and across here, okay? And then we're going to fasten that off. Then we're going to come down here to these ones, and we're going to start here, okay, attaching this across here and across here. And then we're going to attach these ones across here and here. Okay, so it's all going to be attached, and then we're going to attach along these lines then that we missed. So there. Okay, so it's going to be 6 different sections. What we're going to do first is, and we're going to whip stitch this. So if you want to, take right side and make sure that the head of your spider is facing outward, okay, because in the end when we make that web to come across here, we're going to need it to come through the bottom or the end of our spider, okay, not through the head. So this is the head, this is the back side or the butt of your spider, and that's going to have that web attaching there later. So we want the head to face outward, and then we want this piece like this. Right side's facing up. We're gonna flip this over to that one. Okay, so we're looking at both the wrong sides of our square. We're going to start in the chain 2 space. Okay, go into each chain 2 space like that. Okay, pull up a ton of yarn. Okay, and then we're just going to keep doing that all the way around. So going into this side, next stitch, and this side, next stitch. Okay, and just keep pulling your yarn. Okay, whip stitching is a bit tedious, but so is every other type of sewing method with crochet. So just go into this layer and then out this layer and just attach. And then just like that. Just keep pulling, basically. So your arm's definitely going to get a workout in this section. We're just going to be sewing these across here. So just make sure that you lay your squares out like I had my layout, and then just sew this across, just like this. Once I get across this square, oh, also I do have to mention, these are going to have the wrong amount of stitches across. So one is probably going to have more stitches across than this one. So to do that, we're going to go back into the same stitch on this one, but we're going to go into the next stitch on this one, okay, just because it could have, you know, more or less stitches. If you want to count your stitches on each side to see, and then see how many you have to do like that. So now there it looks like I've just put 2 stitches in that one, but I have 1 stitch in that one. Okay, so now I can go in the next one here, and the next one here, and it still will look fabulous. So that's just a way, if you have, you know, more stitches on one square and less stitches on the other square, it'll just stretch it out nicely to make it look even. And you can also see that method in my attaching the granny squares video that I have at the top of the blog for the 365 Days of Granny Squares page on my website, YARNutopia.com. So if you want to attach these squares in a different way, you could single crochet them together, you could you know, crochet them using a granny stitch. You could also whip stitch them or mattress stitch them, or there's many other braided stitches and all kinds of things that you can find on the internet for different attaching methods. But this one is called the whip stitch, and that's exactly what I'm doing to attach these squares today. So I'm just going to go across here. Once I get to the point where I need to attach these other two, this web and that solid one, I'll meet you up. I have this much left to go. So I'll meet you up when I finish this attaching these 2 squares, and then I'll show you how to add on those 2 squares, and we can you know, whip stitch this across and then go on to the next step. Alright, so now I'm at the point where I attached this whole thing here across here, and when I open this up you can see how lovely that looks. It's just nice and flat, straight across, looks very good. But now we have to attach these two squares, this web and this solid granny. So we're going to keep this folded, and we're going to then fold this web one over this solid granny square there, just like that. And we're going to just continue on. So we're going to go into this chain 2 space of this solid granny square, out this chain 2 space of the web granny square. Okay, and we're just going to continue working it. And then you can pull it tighter, just like that, to kind of attach them then. Okay, and then we're going to just continue on going through these stitches. And like I said earlier, if the stitches don't match up completely, if there's one square that has more than the other, you can go twice into the stitch like this. Okay, so I think this web one has less stitches on this side. So I'm going to the next one of this black, the solid granny square, and I'm going to go back into that same stitch in that one that I was already in. Okay, just like that. That way it'll just line up, it'll stretch it out, it'll look good in the end. Okay, so I'm just going to continue then working this across. Once I get to the end of this square, I'm going to fasten off on both ends, and then we'll go on to the next row doing the same thing. So I'll just show you when I get to the end of this square, or these two squares here, attaching these two squares, I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so now I have just completed attaching these two. What we need to do to fasten this off is go into that chain 2 space of this one and into the chain 2 space of this one, and then hold that loop on your finger like this. So don't pull it all the way shut, but then put your needle through there, just like that, and then pull it tight to make a knot. And you can make 1 or 2 or 3 knots. I'm going to go back through there, hold that loop on my finger, come back around, and then pull that through. Okay, and then just pull that tight, and then sew in this end underneath the stitches. Okay, just like this. And since it's black, it's going to be the same color as your square, so you really won't see it anyway. But you can go through some of the stitches, go back through if you want to, just to secure it fully. And then take your scissor and cut that and stretch it out. Okay, and then open this up and you can see that it is nice and flat, looks good. Okay, so there's that. Now we have to fasten off this end here. So this is attached to the ball of yarn, so I'm just going to cut that and then put my yarn needle on there. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in through this chain 2 space and out this chain 2 space. Hold that loop on my finger, and basically just like how I showed you on that other side, just tie this in a knot. Okay, and again, you can go through some of the stitches if you want to. Hold that loop, go through that loop, and then pull tight. Okay, and then sew in your end, just like the other side. Okay, I recommend sewing in your ends as you go, just so that you don't have to do it at the end of this project, because this is a bigger project. Okay, so there's that. Then you can open this up, okay, and you can see that's what it looks like so far. Okay, so now what we're going to do is attach these two squares to these two squares. So you can kind of fold these up like this. Okay, I'm going to grab our black yarn. Okay, yarn our needle, and just basically whip stitch just like I showed you. So just like how I showed you these two squares, attaching those two squares, we're going to attach these two just across here. Okay, so once I get to this end here, I'm going to fasten that off. Then I'm going to open this back up, and then I'm going to attach these two squares over here to these two squares. I'm going to fold those up and attach across here, just like that. Okay? And then, once I have all those squares, so I just have to do this section here, and then this section here, and just like I showed you for those two. Okay, these 4 squares. Okay, so I'm going to attach these two to these two, then these two to these two. Once I have that all attached, then we'll go in and attach across here, and then across here. Okay, so I'm going to attach these two and these two sections. Okay, I'm just going to fold these over, fold those over, and whip stitch that across exactly how I just showed you with the other ones. Make sure your layout is correct and that you have the layout just like how I showed you in the beginning of this video. And then, once I have these sections all sewn up, we'll go on to the next step of sewing them the other way. Alright, so now I have attached this across here. I showed you that part on camera. Then I attached this part across here, and I've attached this part across here. I also went ahead to attach this part across here because I'm going to show you how to do that in this part and this part. So you can see here we have to still sew this part here and this part here together, because those are obviously kind of wonky. So we're going to make it look like this, where it is nice and flat and nice and sewed together. So we're going to attach just then this part and this part, and then this part I've already attached. So you're going to need to fold these forward like this. Okay, and we're just going to attach along this line here, exactly how we attached the other pieces. So we're just going to go into this chain 2 space and into this chain 2 space, bring up some yarn, and just whip stitch across. Exactly how we just did it. It's so simple. So we're just going around and around and around. Once we get to that intersection, we're just going to sew into the chain 2 spaces and then into the next chain 2 spaces of the next 2 blocks that we have, and then fasten off just like how I showed you how to fasten off. So we're just going to do that, and make sure you fasten off both ends, because this yarn here is still attached to the yarn ball, so we have to cut that and sew that in a little later. But I'm just going to go across here, okay, all the way across, just whip stitching these blocks together, and it's exactly how we did that other section. Just now that they are all the squares are fully attached now, this part should be a little bit easier. So we're just going to attach all of the squares together. I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, just because it is the same exact. And if you need more help on attaching squares and how to get through that intersection and all that stuff, you can see the video tutorial for attaching your squares. I posted that back in February, but you can find that on the blog for the 365 Days of Granny Squares page on YARNutopia.com. Just go to the page 365 Days of Granny Squares, and it's right at the top of that blog post. You can watch that video tutorial, or you can watch it here on my channel on YouTube. Just search for the videos that were in February, how to attach your squares, and other methods, you know. So I just show how to do the whip stitch and go through intersection, how to fasten off, all that good stuff. So you can do that all the way across here. And then once I have all the squares all completely attached, we'll go on to making the border. Alright, so I've just attached everything. Everything's all attached, this whole piece. Now we're going to add a little bit of a detail here from the spider, a little chain of white to attach to the web to kind of give it that look that the spider is spinning the web. So I did it on this side off camera, and I'll show you how to do it on camera on this side. So what we need to do is grab our hook. We're still using the H-size hook that we used for all the squares, and we're going to take our white yarn, and what we're going to do is actually put it underneath, okay, our square. Okay, we're going to go into the butt of our spider here, in between these in between these stitches here, right at the center. Okay, so you should see there's 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, right in between those, just like that, and into this chain space right here. And then we're going to pick up, hook that yarn on there, and then pull it through, just like that. Then we're going to go into this chain space here and hook that yarn through there and pull it through. Okay, oops, pull it through. And then we're just going to slip stitch kind of like that. So pull that loop up just like that, go into the next chain space up here, hook that on the yarn just like that, and pull that through. Okay, and we're just going to do it until we get to the web. So go into this chain space in the corner here, yarn over, pull through and through. Okay, pull that loop up. Okay, go into the next chain space right here, yarn over, pull through and through. Okay, you don't want to make it too tight, you have to loosen it up just a little bit, and then go into this chain 2 space of this corner, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to go into this chain 2 space of the corner of this web square. So go into there, pull yarn over underneath, and then pull it through. Okay, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is go into this, behind this double crochet here. You can see there's a chain 2 space back here. We're going to go in through a stitch and into that chain 2 space of that corner, pull that through. We're going to yarn over, pull through and through. We're going to go underneath and cut our yarn, and then we're going to pull it all the way through that. Okay, so that's secure on there. So now what we have on this opposite side is a straggler there and a loose end there as well. So now what we're going to do is take our yarn needle and sew in those 2 ends. So in this end here, okay, I'm just going to go underneath some of these stitches in white, okay, in the corresponding color, and kind of just sew that end in. Okay, you can even go through the squares to the other side. Okay, and go back and forth, just securing this end here. Okay, once you have it fully secure, you can grab your scissor and cut that, and then sew in this one here. Now this one I am going to go underneath these orange stitches. You won't see that though because it is behind the spider, okay, on the other side. Just don't go through both layers and go through the spider, because then you will see the white. So just sew in that end, okay, a few times just like that, so you have it secure. Cut that, and there you have it. So now that looks like that spider is spinning that web and it's attached. So now just do that same thing to this other side. You'll have to just flip this over and then do the same exact thing on this side to make your piece. And then at this point I am going to grab my black yarn and we are going to make the border. Okay, so I grabbed my black yarn and my crochet hook, and we are going to start in this corner here of this square. Okay, and we are going to put our hook into the corner, hook on our yarn, and pull it through, and then chain up 1. And in that same space we're going to single crochet. So go in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Okay? Then we're going to skip this first stitch right here. Okay, you can't really see it that well, but it's right there. We're going to skip that first stitch there, and we're going to put 5 double crochets into the next stitch. So yarn over, go into this next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, so that's 1. Go back in for 2. This is 3, 4, and 5. Alright, then we're going to skip this very next stitch right there and single crochet into the next stitch. So go in, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're just going to repeat that then. So skip this next stitch, put 5 double crochets in the next stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next stitch. Then skip the next and put 5 double crochets into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so it fan stitches in there, then skip the next stitch and single crochet in the next, and then skip the next stitch and put a shell. It's either a shell or a fan stitch. You can interchange those two names. Put 5 double crochets into that next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, then skip the next, single crochet in the next, skip the next, 5 doubles in the next. Okay, I'm just going to show you how to get to the intersection when we go to the next square. So I just want to get to that point here. Okay, so skip the next, single crochet in the next, skip the next, 5 in the next. Then what we're going to do is skip the next stitch, and then we're going to single crochet into each of these chain spaces, these corner spaces here. So single crochet in this one, and then hop to the next and single crochet in that one, just like that. So now we're on this square here. We're going to skip this next stitch right here and put 5 double crochets in the next stitch. Okay, and just repeat then, skipping a stitch and putting a single crochet in the next, then skip a stitch and put 5 double crochets in the next, and then at that next corner it should line up that you will put 5 double crochets in the corner space. So I'm going to do this across here, and then I'll get to that point, and then I'll show you what to do at that point. Alright, so you can see here that we have to skip this one before this next corner here, and we're going to put 5 double crochets into this very end. This is the very end of our table runner, so there should be a fan stitch in there, which is 5 double crochets. And clearly I'm struggling with mine. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so then now we can turn this around just like that. So now we're going to work up this line here. So we're going to skip the next stitch, single crochet into the next. Okay, then skip the next and put 5 double crochets in the next, skip the next, single crochet in the next, then skip the next and 5 double crochets in the next, and I keep repeating myself, so just keep doing that. And then once I get to this, so in this part here, you'll see here in these two, you're going to single crochet in this one and single crochet in this one, then skip this next one, and then put your 5 double crochets in that next one after that. And you'll do that until you get to this point here. Once I'm at this point, I'll meet you up, because then I'll show you how to go along here and go through this section here, which will be a single crochet and a single crochet, but I'm going to get ahead of myself now. So let me just get to this point, and then I will meet you up and we'll go on to the next step together. Okay, so you can see here I came up here and then I single crocheted into that chain 2 space of this corner, and then I just went on to going on to making the same, skipping one, putting 5 double crochets in the next, skipping one, putting a single crochet in the next, skipping one, going 5 double crochet in the next, and so on and so forth, until you get to this point here where you see the web part there, and we want to actually skip this next stitch, single crochet into this corner here. Okay, do not work into the web one here, but single crochet into this corner there. Then we're going to skip the next and then put 5 double crochets in the next. Okay? And oops, that's the next stitch there. So we're going to 5 double crochet in the next there. And then just repeat what we've been doing. So it should all line up. You should end up single crocheting then into this next corner part here in each of the corner parts. When you get to this part here though, just single crochet into this chain space and into this chain space, not into the web square at all. So it's just going to cinch those together, and then just continue on, skipping one, putting 5 double crochets in the next, then skipping one, single crocheting in the next. Okay, so just do that all the way around. Good luck, and I'll meet you up when we're about to fasten off. Alright, so now I've just crocheted around this entire piece. I'm about to fasten off, but you can see here that this is the fan look around it. And these ones on the side get a single crochet in that corner there on each of those corners. But the 2 on the side, those orange ones with the spider on them, that corner gets 5 of those double crochets, just like I showed you earlier. So just remember that, and you can also read that in the pattern on the website. But when you're fastening off, what we're going to do is skip this very last stitch because we have 5 double crochets in there, and we're going to slip stitch to our first single crochet in here. So go in and then yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook, just like that. And then chain 1 and cut your yarn, and then to continue to pull that all the way through and pull tight, and then grab your yarn needle and sew in that end. And just sew in all the rest of the loose ends that you may have that are sticking out. Just sew them in underneath the stitches, just like this. You can go one way, you can go back and forth to kind of secure it. Really up to you how you want to hide that. Just make sure it's hidden, cut any extra, and stretch it out, and there it is. You may need to block this piece. You can see here on my ends of my end squares, you can kind of see that it kind of ruffles up a little bit. So I kind of want to put this down and pin it down and then spray it with a bunch of water and let it dry, and it should dry in place. But there it is! Our lovely Halloween table runner is complete. Thank you so much for watching and learning how to make this piece. Make sure to check out all 365 days of Granny Squares. If you liked making these squares, you can make the rest of them and make all 365. So check out that page. Also check out the blog. If you have any questions about this piece, you can find it out on the blog at YARNutopia.com, and you can just search Table Runner on the website and it will pop up. So thank you so much for watching. If you made this, share your photo on the Facebook and Instagram, #YARNutopia. I'd absolutely love to see what colors you came up with. If you changed the colors or if you did anything differently, I definitely have to see. Leave a comment to this video. Tell me what you liked about it. And I will see you next time. So happy hooking!